I was wondering if you've begun interviewing different candidates for the Fed pick.
Yeah, I know within 3 or 4 people who I'm going to pick. I mean, he goes out pretty soon, fortunately, because I think he's terrible.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is promising to build a $450 million prison in the Florida Everglades to help President Trump carry out his deportation agenda. It was nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz by Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer in a post on X. Governor DeSantis says the facility will take the burden off the federal government and create room in the state's prison system.
This is really a force multiplier where we'll be able to temporarily detain the illegals so that the federal government can deport them to their home countries. We already have this airport and training facility that's been there for many, many years. It will have zero impact on the Everglades.
The vice mayor of a Los Angeles suburb wants to call in local street gangs to help fight ICE agents carrying out legal deportation orders.
Cynthia Gonzalez is vice mayor of Cudahy, a small suburb of East Los Angeles, and she's calling on the thugs to help with the L.A. riots. The Cholos from the 18th Street Gang and the Florencia Gang.
And now that your hood's being invaded by the biggest gang there is, there ain't a peep out of you. It's everyone else who's not about the gang life that's out there protesting and speaking up.
Gonzalez told the gangs if they didn't come help fight ICE, they can just shut up when it comes to claiming gang territory.
Where you at? Whoever's the leadership over there, get your members in order.
Even for someone as seasoned as the Wounded Blues' Randy Sutton, the words are shocking.
Basically calling them cowards for not banding together and fighting the federal government. She's calling for violence. She's calling for the gangs to literally rebel against the federal government.
He says that should be enough to trigger a recall.
This person needs to be removed from office.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
And finally, lawmakers in Washington will weigh in on President Trump's nominee for the director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Susan Menares' clear support of vaccines departs from the president's initial pick to run the CDC. Former Congressman Dave Weldon's nomination was pulled in March over concerns his history of vaccine skepticism could jeopardize his confirmation. Menares also departs from CDC norms. She is not a physician, holding instead a PhD in microbiology and immunology. Menares is the first CDC director nominee to face Senate confirmation, a process Congress mandated for the position in 2023. Much of the questioning focused on another meeting happening at the same time. The CDC's Vaccine Advisory Panel meeting for the first time since HHS Secretary RFK Jr. fired all 17 previous members of the committee, which is tasked with recommending which vaccines Americans should get.
I'm Rusty Pugh.
AFA Action takes attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the family constantly employ new tactics to try to sneak past our radar. They know if we stand together, their evil plans will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video When Your Faith is Illegal by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Issues is the name of this program, and it's Thursday, June the 26th, 2025. Joining me in studio today for his excellent commentary, I'm sure, Ed Battagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Hey, good morning, Tim. This is my 1,000th program here on Today's Issues.
No kidding. Who told you that?
Just made it up.
Okay, well.
Sounds good, though, doesn't it?
Fake news.
Yeah, it was fake news.
Chris
I have
Woodward?
no idea how many.
How you doing, Chris?
Good morning.
Ray Pritchard, how you doing, Brother Ray?
Hey, rocking and rolling here in Kansas City. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing great, and appreciate everybody making time to be on the program today.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else you had going on, but hey, Ray, I was curious. You've lived in Kansas City now, what, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years?
About 8 years coming on.
Already, wow.
Yeah.
What's your favorite barbecue place in Kansas
that's
City?
easy. Okay, Tim, come to Kansas City. We
All
got
right.
a place called Slaps.
Okay.
Kansas City.
Slaps.
Let me.
Yeah.
Okay. Here it is. There are fancy barbecue places. You put down a lot of money.
Yeah.
We got those, right?
Yeah.
We got those. In fact, we got a place called Joe's. Not so fancy, but it's in a former gas station. It's the number 6 barbecue place in all of America.
Wow.
If you go a few miles to the west to a different part of town, we'll just leave it that way, okay? To a part of town that you might not otherwise go to necessarily, you go down a street, and there on the street is Slaps Barbecue. And it's old-fashioned. It's old school. You get burnt ends, Ed. You get burnt ends. You get ribs. You get coleslaw. You get baked beans. And they serve the white bread. To me, that's one of the proofs of old school barbecue.
We can wipe your hands.
Yeah, I want some white bread on the bottom of my barbecue. You can get that at Slaps.
Now, why is it a part of the town you wouldn't ordinarily go to?
Actually, it's more, and it's not a bad part of town. It's more sort of industrial part of town, right?
Okay.
And yet, people come into this industrial part of Kansas City, and there's always a line going out the door to get into Slaps.
But it's a dine-in place. Dine-in.
They've got dine-in. They've got in nice weather
Carry
like
out.
we're having right now, and you got carry out, and you got a lot of tables outside. So
Now, you said burnt ends.
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm not familiar with that term. You're going to tell me what that means.
You don't know what burnt ends means?
I just
Ed,
said that.
explain it, Ed.
You explain it, Ray.
It's what it sounds.
You don't wait. Hold on, no. Hold on, just a minute, Ray.
I'm gonna guess, and it's the it's the ends of the big. I don't know if it's called brisket or what.
Okay, is he on to something there? Ray?
Yeah, he's on something. Right. It's
Okay.
what it sounds like. It's the ends of the meat that usually pretty crispy on the outside. And some people love it, and some people, well, they don't want the crispy stuff, but they cut it off. It's crispy on the outside, and it is juicy. So you can get yourself a big plate of burnt ends, and
it's got all the spices and stuff
got
that
all
they
the
put on it.
spices. Yeah, you can get a burnt end sandwich too. I'm getting hungry.
I'm getting man. I'm all for that. I take a burnt end sandwich.
Yes,
Absolutely.
And then you could just be like in my house, and every meal you have has got a burn end of something.
That's right.
Bada boom.
Boom.
Joining us now over the phone is Ed's wife.
Who's actually a very
Diane
good
burn
cook.
in Vitagliano.
She is a very good cook.
Yeah.
You know, Ray and I had a conversation back in March. My wife and I were blessed with an opportunity to go to Branson, and we ate at a barbecue place in Branson that was very good. And it was unique for me in that I've had, a barbecue a lot over the years. But I asked for baked beans as my side, and they gave me what appeared to be like a local spin on baked beans. It was like bean medley done as like baked beans. I had never in my life had it
You
before.
got some butter
Bean
beans in
medley.
there, and pinto beans and navy beans. Yeah.
I had
sounds
never had
awful.
it that way before.
Well,
I thought it was good because they were slathered in barbecue sauce.
Oh,
Bean-
right. Well.
Bean Medley is actually a Christian rapper.
Yeah.
Have y'all not heard him?
No.
Oh man,
Right.
he can go.
He's good.
Live in concert.
You put
Bean
barbecue
Medley
sauce on it.
on
it's good.
stage tonight. Bean Medley.
Bean medley. That's
All right.
He opened for the Carpenters in 1972. I teared up. Let me tell you.
Okay. All right. We're not going to tip off Brother Alex McFarland, who's going to be on with us at the bottom of the hour, except to say we're going to get him to comment on North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
Oh, this is good.
Well, you got about 5 places in America that have their claim to fame on barbecue, right?
Texas be one of them.
Texas, brisket.
Yeah.
Memphis.
Memphis ribs.
What about Memphis?
You got that's pork. You got North Carolina. They have their own flavor, right?
That's exactly right. That's right.
That's 3.
And then
now,
Missouri?
Well, I know that
Come on
JJ
up to Kansas City. We got
Kansas
we got
City's 4.
barbecue.
Now, you got
on every
Texas, you got
corner.
North Carolina, you got Memphis. You got now JJ Jasper will tell you he hails from
Kentucky.
Owensboro,
Yeah.
Kentucky, and they have their own way to do barbecue up
He's always
there.
talking about burgoo.
Burger.
Like every other
Burger.
show.
Yeah, burgoo. Yeah, I don't know if burgoo's not barbecue though.
It's not literally barbecue. I don't
Barbecue.
even know what category burger.
Burgoo's burger. He calls it burgoo and mutton or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, those four places, there may be somewhere else I'm forgetting right now, but those four places, Memphis, Kansas City, North Carolina, Texas, and J.J. Jasper would put
What about New Orleans? Do
Kentucky
they have
on that.
They're mostly,
New Orleans, they're not known for barbecue.
mostly gumbo and
Yeah, gumbo
seafood.
and gator, things of that nature.
When we start a cooking show on radio,
Yeah,
it's
I don't know
gonna be
how we
lit.
got off on
I'm
this.
tell you.
hungry already.
I don't know. I think
All
we're
right,
ready.
so Alex McFarland will be with us at the bottom of the hour. What's your first story there?
Well, I want to bring everybody's attention to a Supreme Court decision this morning. 6-3 opinion. The U.S. Supreme Court is now allowing states like South Carolina to redirect taxpayer dollars away from abortion facilities like Planned Parenthood. This is a case known as Medina v. Planned Parenthood South Atlantic, and it involves something South Carolina sought out to do several years ago, that being redirect Medicaid funding, state and federal dollars, away from places like Planned Parenthood, the concern being that Planned Parenthood turns around and uses those public tax dollars for things like abortion and gender transitions. People are not aware of this, but in addition to offering abortion services, Planned Parenthood has become a leader in providing minors, even minors, with gender transition drugs, hormones, things like that. And so South Carolina several years ago said, you know what, there are other better places to use taxpayer dollars. So Planned Parenthood, you're no longer going to get Medicaid funding from us because you're doing these controversial things that taxpayers object to. And the Supreme Court today said, we are going to allow states like South Carolina to redirect taxpayer dollars away from you, Planned Parenthood. Again, it was a 6-3 decision. Judge Gorsuch wrote the opinion, and liberal justices Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan dissented.
Well, and this is not just Planned Parenthood, though, right? So
Correct.
all abortion providers.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
It just had Planned Parenthood in the top.
Well, listen, the vast majority of Americans, if you not this is not a legal question, this is a public opinion question. The vast majority of Americans would be and are opposed to using tax dollars to pay for abortions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, even people who might say they're pro-choice or whatever up to a certain time would agree that you shouldn't use public funds to pay for a private decision that kills an unborn baby.
Right.
So, so this is a good decision by the Supreme Court. I think South Carolina is probably one of the most pro-life states in America, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a good decision by the Supreme Court. I'm going to ask a question. I think I know the answer to it. Did you say Medicaid?
Medicaid.
Okay, Medicaid. Is this tax dollars, federal tax dollars that are divvied out to the states?
Yeah, Medicaid is a venture that involves state and federal tax dollars, and it basically covers the things that Medicare does not. That was the purpose for the creation of Medicaid. So these are tax dollars from South Carolinians that are going up to Washington and coming back to help pay for Medicaid.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a great decision by the United States Supreme Court. And let me remind folks, had not President Trump beaten Hillary Clinton, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
Very true.
Right.
In a positive way today, because you go all the way back to 2016, and President Trump made a promise to appoint judges who are pro-life to the federal bench, and he did that with, as we're seeing now, and I would say pro-Constitution.
Right.
Okay. Pro-Constitution. But anyway, so the three justices, I know they haven't been universally applauded on every decision by conservatives, right? But the 6-3 decision is a good one, where you can't use, if states want to say you can't use federal tax dollars to pay for abortion, they can do that.
Well, it's a great decision in terms of the pro-life position. It's also a victory for federalism. The idea that not every decision should be made by the Congress, and then especially contentious issues, South Carolina ought to have the right to fund or defund as they see fit. Virginia, same way. Illinois, the same way. Oregon, the same way. Good victory for federalism, which, I mean, the federalism principle goes all the way back to the very beginning, 1787. I think the Roberts Court has made several decisions in the last couple of years upholding this principle. I think that's great.
Also, just a side note, I'm just looking now because there are several other Supreme Court rulings. Are you guys going to be talking about the gun maker lawsuit?
Yeah, we're going to start following that after I get off the show.
Okay, so this is just a blurb here. Mexico's lawsuit against U.S. gun makers. The court ruled that the Mexican government cannot sue U.S. gun manufacturers over violence attributed to drug cartels. And so I'm not sure what the details are of the ruling, but that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Mexico tried to sue the United States?
The gun makers.
Yeah, blaming them for gun violence in Mexico City.
Because of guns that the gun makers make and then the cartels buy illegally, take them over the border into Mexico, and the cartels use those guns to kill Mexican citizens. So Mexico tried to sue these gun makers, and the Supreme Court. They're going to
sue knife makers too?
Yeah.
Well, the Supreme Court said you can't do this.
You can't. Yeah.
It's a silly argument.
Yeah. All right. You're listening to Today's Issues on AFR. Tim, Ed, Chris, and Ray. Next story, Chris.
Well, the Trump administration continues to speak out against media reports involving a so-called leak report showing that Saturday's B-2 bombings of those Iranian nuclear facilities did not do the damage that Trump says.
What kind of facilities?
That they did.
I don't know why.
I stumbled.
This
we go.
This is a the word nuclear is a serious problem for Southerners.
Yeah.
And I hear it all over. It doesn't matter whether you're
I'm
from
team nuclear. I just stumbled on the word.
It's from Oklahoma to Florida.
Yeah.
It's a problem, and I don't know what to do about
There's
it.
one U in nuclear, but for some reason people put two.
So, all right, Ed.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure Ray, say the word.
Nuclear?
Okay.
Yeah,
Did he get it?
Yeah, he got it. Nuclear.
Okay, I'm going to do it phonetically, so I'll try my best.
It's not nuclear.
Well, when I say it, I can look at it 100 times, but that's what comes out. So,
George W. Bush was the same way.
He did.
I don't know what it's where our tongues work or something. Must be all the barbecue. I don't know what it is. So tell me how to say the word.
Nuclear.
All right, hold on.
New.
I'm going to say N-U-K-E.
Nuke.
Okay?
Yeah.
Nuke.
Like where you could eat. Where we
I
could
got
eat
you.
at
Nuke.
nukes. Nuclear.
Oh, like
Clear.
like clear.
Nuclear.
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 Did I get it?
Nuclear. You
Nuclear.
need to have a little bit
All
of.
right, hold on. Let me do the nuke.
You got to have 3 syllables.
Yeah.
All right, nuke.
Nuclear. Nuclear.
How about this? Nuclear.
There you go.
Yeah, beautiful.
Well, it always helps me to write it out phonetically.
I'm so proud of you,
Tim.
Tim.
I'm proud of myself.
Go get my cowbell and ring it.
And I think Ray has the right. Remember, it has to be 3 syllables. Nuclear.
Oh, we can do that in the South.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We
We'll draw it out.
We can definitely get a one
Let me tell
syllable
you.
word, make it 3.
We can add syllables.
That's right.
All right, so back to the story. What
So
now?
the Trump administration continues to hammer media for doing a story on this, saying the leaker should be in jail. It's not true, fake news, all these kinds of things. And this morning, I'm going to air one clip. We could go on and on because I had others, but I'm going to do just one clip here of Pete Hegseth, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, hammering the mainstream media for its coverage of all this stuff. Clip 1.
You cheer against Trump so hard. It's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump because you want him not to be successful so bad. You have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand? How about how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? Or what it's like to man a Patriot battery? Or how hard it is to refuel midair? Giving the American people an understanding of how complex and sophisticated this mission really was.
See, I think you're ready to cite a Bible verse.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a sermon right there. But I understand his frustration, and he's chastising a lot of the liberal media They do. A lot of them have what's called Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I guess it's just human nature. When you can't stand somebody so bad, you can't even give them credit for I don't know, using a fork and knife right or something. It's just, and that's the way the media has become. And with Trump, now I will say this: Trump can dish it out too.
Right.
So Trump dishes, and people love that. A lot of people love that. Fake media, and then he goes on the attack. And I understand why he's done that over the years. It's been very effective. But when you do that and you get personal with reporters, for example, like he does what's the woman's name from CNN? The young woman who's the reporter who did the interview with him?
Caitlin Collins?
Her. Yeah, see? And now she's sort of dishing back at him. So it becomes a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It becomes a little bit, I would say, unnecessarily personal, but that's the way it is. But what Pete Hegseth is calling out, he's Secretary of Defense, Ray, is the fact that these folks, many of them hate Trump so much because of his politics and his antagonism towards them that they have their objectivity no longer exists, so that they can't even credit him or his administration for a successful military operation. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, the achievement of those pilots, it's unbelievable. Pete Hegseth has a great point. What
Right,
did he say?
right.
32 hours?
36.
36 hours from taking off in Missouri, flying across the world, refueling several times along the way, going into the middle of a war zone, right?
Right.
Dropping those bunker buster bombs, and hitting
Through an
the
air
target.
shaft.
Through an air shaft. Thank you. Through an air
They're
shaft.
smart bombs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And clearing the area. Long trip back, refueling on the way back, and we didn't lose a pilot. We didn't lose a plane. Our guys got it. And I guess guys and gals, whoever was flying the planes, they made it over there. They made it back. They're heroes. They deserve the greatest amount of praise. They completely fulfilled the mission. Now, it's another whole thing, Tim, to talk about what's the extent of the damage, and that's a fair debate to have, right?
Right.
I mean, that's fair. It is. Mr. Trump's point is absolutely right. Same point you're making, that there are people who hate him so much that they will dishonor these pilots and dishonor the military in order to score points against Donald Trump. That's disgraceful.
Well, and I mentioned this in our story meeting this morning, so I'll just let our listeners know. And while it's true, none of us are going to be granted permission from Iran to go over there and inspect. But this is what the International Atomic Energy Agency, this is their chairman, Rafael Grossi. Rafael, yeah.
Yeah.
I
knew him a few years ago.
Oh,
How does he say
you knew the whole Grossi family?
Our paths crossed, but it was at a conference just
Oh,
for a few
yeah.
minutes. But anyway, go ahead.
You and Rafael down by the schoolyard?
Yeah. Wait, Rafael who did what now?
Rafael Grossi, he's the chairman of the International Atomic Energy Agency. And so what Grossi told Radio France International, I guess, he said that the centrifuges at Iran's underground Fordo nuclear site, he said, quote, are no longer operational after the U.S. strikes. In the interview I'm reading now from, this is an article posted on X. In the interview, Grossi told IAEA officials, he said the officials know the installations like the back of our hand and can deduce fairly precise conclusions by looking at satellite images. He added, given the power of these devices and the technical characteristics of a centrifuge, we already know that these centrifuges are no longer operational because they are fairly precise machines, and even vibrations from the bombs can completely destroy them. They don't even have to be a direct hit. So to me, it seems that when President Trump says no, they were obliterated, that's probably the truth.
Okay, so the Pentagon, who Pete Hegseth is Secretary of Defense, so he's a cabinet position over the Pentagon. But the Joint Chiefs Chairman, General Dan Kane,
Raisin Cane?
I think Trump called him Raisin Cane, which is also a chicken place, right? Am I right?
It is.
I think so.
Anyway, he said that that the United States has been monitoring basically and making plans for an attack if need be, and that's what happened on Iran's what's called Fordo nuclear facility. Did I get it right?
Perfect.
Did I nail it or what?
Good, you nailed it.
And they have been doing this since they, being our defense folks, have been doing this since 2009. So they
preparing for it.
Yeah, preparing for this. So anyway, that's the situation there, and good for Pete Hegseth. I think one of the reasons Pete Hegseth was hired was for his ability to do what he just did right there. Wax eloquent, and he's a excellent speaker and communicator, obviously.
And he knows his stuff.
Obviously, from his time at Fox News on his weekend show and his appearances on, Fox News down through the years.
And his time in the military.
Yes, but I'm talking about his ability to communicate and articulate.
Yeah. Right.
He's excellent. He's excellent on TV and in the media. Is what I'm saying is. So that's one of the reasons President Trump picked him. All right, we're going to take a break right here, a timeout.
We're going to go get some chicken from Raisin Cane's.
Over 800 locations in the U.S.
Is that right?
Did you look it up?
I looked it up, yes.
All right, we're going to be back with Dr. Alex McFarland in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to the radio program, Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network.
And maybe we go to slaps after that.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
A woman's scream suddenly startled a party of surveyors at a dinner in a forest in northern Virginia on a calm, sunny day in 1750. The men ran in the direction of the scream. One of the first to reach the scene was an 18-year-old. "Please, sir, please make them release me," the woman said as several held her. "My boy is drowning and they'll not let me go to save him." One of those holding her yelled, "It would be madness. She'll jump into the river and drown herself." Well, the young man threw off his coat, sprang to the edge of the bank, scanned for a moment the rocks and whirling currents, and then, catching a glimpse of the boy, plunged into the roaring rapids. "Thank God," the mother said. "He will save my boy." Everyone watched as the young would-be rescuer fought the rocks and the whirlpools. Twice the rescuer disappeared from sight, only to come back. He was nearing the part of the river that was most dangerous. The rush of the waters was so dangerous at that spot that no one had ever dared approach it, even in a canoe. And into the middle of it he went. Finally he grabbed the boy, lifted him above the water with his strong right arm. But at that moment those standing on the bank cried in horror. Both the youth and the child shot over the falls and vanished into the waters below. Following a deadly few seconds, the mother shouted, "There they are, see, they're safe!" Soon the youth, exhausted, and the boy, senseless, reached the bank. The friends were there to meet them. God will give you a reward, solemnly spoke the grateful woman. He will do great things for you in return for this day's work, and the blessings of thousands other than mine shall be yours. You know, we call it courage, that thing that made the youngster do what he did. When others refused, were afraid, called it hopeless, he jumped into the water without thought of any danger he faced. One thing raced in his mind above everything else. There was another human who needed help. Courage is a wonderful thing. It's something that you don't normally get overnight. You have to work at it, make it a way of life. The carpenter had it too, you know. He was a man who inspired others with his courage. When they threatened him with bodily harm, he stood fast. When they gave him a choice between a lie or a cross, he chose the cross and truth. Oh, I nearly forgot that the woman's prediction about the young man, it proved correct. Some 39 years later, he was installed as the first president of the new country called the United States of America. His name was George Washington.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
As it is written, what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived, the things God has prepared for those who love him. 1 Corinthians 2, verse 9.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim with Ed and Chris and Ray, and we hope you're having a nice day out there. And we want to welcome Dr. Alex McFarland to our program now, co-host of Exploring the Word, heard each weekday afternoon on American Family Radio, co-hosted with Brother Bert Harper. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, everybody.
You in the middle of your summer camp tour?
We are. We just wrapped up camp number 3.
And how many you got?
We got 7 total. And
so where were you this week?
We were in Temple, Georgia, and that's a camp we've done about 8 or 9 years. And I think Temple is about as hot as Phoenix, Arizona. But we love it down there, and the great kids had a lot of... Tim, I'm going to text you some really great pictures of kids making decisions for Christ. But listen to this. There was a young man named Isaac, an African-American 18-year-old, just graduated high school. And I've got a picture. He's a lot taller than me. He's going to Hardin-Simmons University to study business. And I was so flattered. Isaac, this wonderful, godly, just great young man, he came up to me, and he was like just really kind of giddy. He said, "Oh, I'm so honored to meet you. I'm so honored to meet you." He said, "I've listened to you and Bert since I was 12 years old, riding in the back seat of my mom's car. She keeps it on AFR." And he said, it was very humbling, Tim. He said, "You have no idea how honored I am to meet you." And he was just like meeting, a rock star. Yeah. And I said, "Listen, man, I'm just a saved sinner." But I was thinking about this. Here is a young man. He said he's been listening to Exploring the Word since he was 12. And, Tim, I just give God the glory.
Wow.
Kids are getting saved.
Amen.
Kids are getting discipled. And,
so how tall was he?
I'm going to say I'm looking at this picture of he and I. If I stand up straight, I might be 5'8", maybe. So I'm going to say this kid is like 6 or 6'1" or 2.
Yeah. Well, that's a great testimony. We've heard that. When you're kids, you're subjected to whatever your parents are listening to on the radio, right?
Right.
We all know that. And to have his mom, who's obviously a fine Christian lady, to be having him listen to American Family Radio, and more importantly, the gospel message in its various forms here on AFR, and have that impact him in such a profound way and that we played a part in that is just wonderful. Let me ask you.
I just texted you a picture.
Okay.
And it's
and
by the
also
way,
a picture of some kids
let me
that got
see.
saved.
by the
on
way,
Tuesday
it's
night.
not just you're subjected to radio. This is the only reason why I watched Lawrence Welk growing up, is because I was subjected to what my parents were watching. So it goes both ways.
All right, give me a Lawrence Welk, Ed. What do you say? What was it?
I won and a 2 and a 3.
You know, I read he was a Christian.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Sure didn't come through with his music.
Bubbles. It sure did.
I'm just kidding. I
ain't got your text.
It was it was harmless entertainment.
You send a text to me?
I did. Let me see. Let me make sure. Yeah, maybe it'll come through. Of course, I'm in a studio. Oh, it's like going slowly.
Oh,
But
it's one of those. Okay, we have to come back in 20 minutes and check, see if it's going through yet or not. All right, so Alex, I was going to we want to jump into some topics here with you, but I wanted to ask you, because I asked Ray at the top of the program. Ray's with us from Kansas City. They have their own barbecue in Kansas City that they like to brag about. So does North Carolina. What's your best? What's the best thing they do in North Carolina they're known for with barbecue?
Well, what we call barbecue is smoked pork shoulder.
Okay.
And it's chopped up. Now, down east near the coast, they kind of season it with vinegar, and that's okay. Up here in the Piedmont near Greensboro, Pleasant Garden, Lexington, it's more of a sauce that's got like some pepper. We've got, and I'm going to get a big amen from a lot of people in America, there is a sauce called Texas Pete.
Yeah.
It's a hot sauce that we just think is the best. And but North Carolina
Wait a minute. Texas Pete.
Mm-hmm. It's one with the cowboy at the
is
bottom.
it made in North Carolina?
P-E-T-E. Yeah, it's made in
So you
Winston-Salem.
can't believe anything anymore.
New York City.
So Texas Pete made in North Carolina you use that every day on, don't you? Or what?
No,
I use Louisiana.
Not every day. I use Louisiana hot sauce on my eggs.
Okay. All right.
Oh, I like that too.
Yeah,
Texas Pete.
I like that too.
Tiger sauce I use on different types of meats and rice.
And ironically, Texas Pete is not from Texas.
That's I did not know that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But
it's got a Texas cowboy on the bottle.
Listen. We
so
can
check
talk about
this
this
out.
for a long time, but I don't think we should right now.
Okay.
I was preaching in Chicago, Illinois, and on Wednesday night, this is a couple years ago, it was right before COVID, but they said to honor Alex, we're going to have barbecue on Wednesday night, the final night of this Worldview conference I was doing. So we had a big thing before the service, and they gave me what I would call a sloppy Joe, like hamburger bun with, and it was great. And I said, hey, this is awesome. When are we going to get the barbecue? And he said, that's it. And I said, really? He said, that's barbecue, isn't it? And I said, well, this is awesome. I'm loving it, but this is not really barbecue. So, and I know, of course, in Texas, which I love, there's brisket.
Yeah, brisket, yeah.
I'm a carnivore, man. I've had great meat all over America. But we North Carolinians, we like to think that chopped, smoked pork shoulder makes the best barbecue.
I got you. All right. Well, by the way, how many more? You said you got 4 more camps. These are Worldview training camps for teenagers, basically. It's what you're, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how many do you? So do you have any space available at your last 4?
Do you know, actually, the only one where we have any space is Elgin, Illinois. We're going to be at Judson University. We've rented space there. The website is equipretreat.org. There's a waiting list. We've already done Iowa and Montana and Georgia. We've got South Carolina, Illinois, New Jersey, and I'm at another camp that I do in Colorado next week. So the only one, if you go on equipretreat.org, Elgin, Illinois, we have some space, and that's largely for college students.
Where is Elgin?
Kind of near Chicago.
Ray, you know?
That's exactly right. That's right. It's on the edge of metropolitan Chicago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Alex, I wanted you to, we never know what we're going to talk to you about, nor that anybody on this on this panel here know what Tim's going to bring up. I have no idea.
true.
Huh? So,
true.
I'm going to ask you a question. You may or may not. I know you know some of the biblical history of what I'm about to ask you, but you know, the Iran-Israel war conflict has been in the news. We all know about that. Can you explain to me what is the there is no reasonable explanation as normally relates to conflict or war in this situation that I can figure out. And I've asked Ed about this, and he's commented on it. That is, Israel is obviously a Jewish country. They're 1,500 miles or so, 12 to 1,500 miles from Iran. There's no historical war over land. These two peoples don't have anything really to fight about. There's no natural resources that are at stake here. The neighbors of Israel are Arab. The Iranians are Persian. They're now they are Muslim, but they're not the same kind of Muslims that are in the Arab world. So, what is it that drives these Ayatollah? This is not representative, I don't think, of the average Iranian person, although they've been brainwashed by propaganda against Israel and the Jews in America. But still, what is it that drives the hate for the Jews by these? That is it. What's Khomeini? What's his proper name? I mean,
Khomeini.
Okay, is that it?
Khomeini.
Ayatollah Khomeini, the supreme Islamic leader of Iran and basically the dictator. What drives this constant? He's like he gets up every morning going, "How can I hate Israel more today?" What foments that?
Well, I mean, there has always been just a deeply seated anti-Semitism in Islam.
All of Islam, you're saying, both Shia
really,
and Sunni. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, this is well documented, although it's not covered very much in the politically correct woke press of our times. But Islam has been, just heinously full of Jew hatred for centuries. And, to understand the present moment, I mean, it all comes back to Ishmael versus Isaac, really. Abraham and Sarah had a child with Hagar, the Egyptian servant girl, Ishmael. And I want to be clear. Look, God loves all people. Anyone who turns to Jesus can be saved. And certainly we pray for the salvation of all Arabic peoples, Muslim or whomever. We want them to be saved. But Isaac, through Abraham and Sarah, was the child of promise. And I just think it's fascinating that, what's playing out in our world today, the children of Ishmael hating and resenting the children of Isaac. And like you said, there are no natural resources at stake necessarily.
There's no land. They're not fighting over land yet, like Ukraine and Russia are.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. I mean, I do and I don't.
In 1984, Yasser Arafat of the PLO was asked, regarding Palestinian relations with Israel, what do you want? Because the UN was pressuring Israel to give up land for peace, which has never brought peace. And Yasser Arafat very candidly in 1984 said, what do we want? We want Israel driven into the sea.
Yeah.
And I really think Mark Twain was right, and this was way before the restoration of Israel as a nation, May 14, 1948. But Mark Twain said, if there's anything that makes me believe in God and the supernatural. Mark Twain was not a Christian, but he said, if there's anything that would lead me to believe in God and the supernatural, it would be the Jewish people. Not only their preservation, but this inexplicable, irrational animosity exhibited around the world. Even Mark Twain recognized, here's this tiny little, 1% of the human population, tiny little bit of land, and there's this inexplicable hatred of the Jews.
Well,
that-
let me ask, Ray, is there any, Alex, excuse me for interrupting, do you want to finish that thought, or?
No.
Okay. I want to ask you, Ray, in the Bible, is there any historical animus between the people who now live in Iran, what we call Iran, which wasn't called that in the Bible, the Persian people and the Jewish people in Israel?
Well, if you go back to the book of Daniel, you see the story of Daniel starting as a young man and living through the Babylonian era and then into the Medo-Persian era, how God blessed him, how God promoted this Jewish man who had been taken captive as a boy, and he ends up as head of the Magi, which is like the whole group of the king's advisors. It's unbelievably important place. It's obvious Nebuchadnezzar came to greatly respect Daniel. So if you ask me, should there be friendship between the Jews and the Persians historically? There should be, but it's exactly what Alex has said. There is an animosity inside certain people toward the Jews, a hatred toward them, and you see it in what the Ayatollah Khomeini is saying, what these radical clerics, they don't just want to win, they want to wipe Israel off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
You can't blame Israel for standing up and defending themselves against people who wish they were dead.
Just one other dynamic at work here, which makes this harder to comprehend, really. That is Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini's hatred for Israel, like he's just obsessed with it day and night. Death to Israel, death to America, little Satan, big Satan. But the Iranians are, as I say, this Ayatollah Khomeini is the supreme leader of the Shia,
yes,
of Muslims in which is altogether a different religion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if altogether is the right word, but a different religion than the Sunni. They consider each other cults, basically.
They consider each other like heretics.
Heretics.
They're both Muslim groups, but it has to do with how the leadership unfolded after Muhammad died.
Okay.
And who had the right to continue Islam. I can't remember all the details to that, but one branch went this way and the other branch went another way.
But that's another thing. So you got the Shia leader, the Shia Islamic, financially supporting Hamas and Hezbollah, who are Sunni, and so they're different. But just because their hatred for Israel, to fund their hatred for Israel. Ed, would you real quickly go over you mentioned yesterday or the day before something called the House of Islam.
Yeah.
Which may explain some of this.
So I think if I get the pronunciation right, the Arabic is Dar al-Islam and Dar al-Harb, spelled H-A-R-B. And those terms mean the House of Islam and the House of War. So the House of Islam is a term that refers to any territory, any nation, any people group that has submitted to Islam, and the House of War is everything outside of that. So
this is a teaching inside Islam.
This is a teaching inside Islam.
Okay.
So all these Muslims, for example, moving to Great Britain or to France, they are moving to the House of War, where Islam is struggling to subjugate, spiritually speaking, those lands. Now, what this idea of the House of Islam also states is that once a land and a people have submitted to Islam, it belongs to Islam forever. And even if, like in the case of Israel, a parcel of land escapes the grasp of Islam, it still belongs to Islam. And that's why the nation of Israel, for those who truly believe Islamic teaching, the House of Israel, the nation of Israel has to be obliterated because it is an affront to Allah, that's what they believe, for infidels to have recaptured land that belonged to Islam. So that's why when we talk about, well, why can't there be peace between Israel and Iran or Israel and Hamas? There can't be, because to be a faithful Muslim, you have to take that land back. And if Israel's in control of it, Israel has to cease to exist. And any country like America that supports Israel's claim to that land, that's why you have Ayatollah Khamenei saying death to the little Satan, Israel, and then death to the great Satan, America, who's trying to work with and protect the infidel.
So Alex, this really comes down what we're seeing happening in the world. It's really spiritual.
It really is.
I mean, people wouldn't people who aren't Christians and don't study the Bible, and I'm not putting people down, but they wouldn't understand this kind of language or understand when I say this is spiritual, what that actually means. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, just goings on since 1948, and especially in 1967, the Six-Day War, where Israel, they were attacked and they tripled their land holdings. I mean, I think this is such proof that the Bible is the Word of God, and the Bible writes history in advance. And Ed is absolutely right. I mean, the fact that land once held by Muslims was taken back and is now back in the hands of Israel, I mean, that's like a vendetta that the Muslim world wants to settle. But, Psalm 105, verses 8 through 11, says that the covenant God made with Abraham is forever to give to him the land of Canaan and your inheritance. So, and by the way, that was Psalm 105 is written 1000 BC. Muhammad wasn't born till 571, and Islam started around like 610. So, we're talking 1,500 plus years before Islam even existed. God was reiterating that the land is given to Abraham and his descendants forever. Yeah. So,
all right, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Ray, anything you want to add or say about that?
Well, Alex said it beautifully, that God has made a promise to the Jewish people. And even today, they are in unbelief. But I would just say, read Romans 11. If you doubt that God has a future for the Jewish people, I don't see how you can get around what Romans 11 says. If God took them out because of unbelief, he can put them back in the place of blessing anytime he wants. So on a practical note, about our Jewish friends, neighbors, co-workers, and so on, we ought to love them, we ought to build relationships with them, and we ought to pray fervently for them to come to Jesus Christ, that God would open their eyes and embrace Christ as Savior and Lord, as their God-sent Messiah.
Chris, you want to say anything?
I do have a question. So we also know from like Old Testament scripture that God is not a man that he should lie. Okay, and Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Jesus is the Word. Does that mean, do those verses, God is not a man that he should lie, and the other that I mentioned, does that mean that what God said in Genesis still holds today?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. God's Word, Jesus said in Matthew 24:35, heaven and earth will pass away, my words will never pass away. And John 10:35, great verse, Jesus said, the Scripture cannot be broken. So yes, what God has said in his written revelation, that's the Bible, is true for all times.
Yeah. Another thing we need to remember, you mentioned to pray for somebody or pray for Israel, pray for the Jewish people, is that I was listening to a Jewish gentleman the other day. He was an American, and this was about after the two Jewish people were killed in Washington, D.C. They were assassinated. Remember that? When was that? Right. 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's maybe a month by now.
And basically they were targeted because they were Jews, and they were coming out of a Jewish museum. Weren't they workers for the embassy there or something like that? It seemed like they were.
And they were a couple, weren't they? I think
they were. Anyway, they were having an engagement announcement or something.
The word is that they were believers.
Is that right?
Yeah, Dr. Michael Rydelnik of Cornerstone University, I had him on the Hamilton corner. He was at Moody 30 years, a great scholar. And the beautiful thing, I mean, it's very tragic. On May 21st, they were assassinated, but they were two young, engaged couple, Jewish believers in Jesus Messiah.
Wow. But this person that I saw being interviewed, I think he was a former professional baseball player for the Boston Red Sox. But I can't think of his name. Anyway, I can't think of his name right now. But basically, people in the baseball world would recognize his name. But he was being interviewed, and he said, we Jews, even in America, not to mention Israel, are just exhausted with the anti-Semitism and the hatred, like it's being demonstrated on the college campuses, for example. So he said,
It was Kevin Youkilis.
Kevin Youkilis. And he said, we feel like we're hunted. I thought, wow, that's a awful place to be, especially living in America. You know what I'm saying? The land of the free, home of the brave, and you're supposed to have the melting pot and be everybody living in peace as best we can. And yet, he said, as Jewish people, we feel like we're being hunted. And so, anyway, I just thought we do need to pray for. We pray for the Jews come to know Christ, because that's the ultimate goal, but also pray for them as they're scared.
Well, and to me, it's further proof is that nobody really needs proof if you've been paying attention to what's happened in our nation over the last 50 years. But this hunting of Jews in America is further proof that spiritual darkness has deepened in our country. And the church needs to be salt and light during this time, because anytime you have that kind of open hostility towards the Jews or Christians, but in this case we're talking about the Jews, you know that the devil is afoot, and Christians need to be praying for America, praying for God to push back on this darkness. But that's clear. What's happening is that spiritual darkness has deepened and grown in America.
Alex, thanks so much for being on with us, and we look forward to some other good. I did get your text, by the way, and you're right. I think the young man's would be able to dunk on you, no problem.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, no problem.
Blessings, everybody.
Yeah. All right, see you, Alex. We'll be back with Steve Paisley Jordahl in 5 minutes. My thanks to Chris.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back in 5 minutes.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
The enemy has pulled out all the stops to try to destroy the family for a very long time. That's why the American Family Association stands boldly in the gap to protect and strengthen this God-breathed institution. Visit AFA.net today and discover the resources available for you and your family. And if you would, please take a minute to show your support. That's AFA.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Justice Department are taking action against Maryland federal judges. David Spunt tells us more from Washington.
This is incredibly unusual for the DOJ of the United States to sue every federal judge in a given state. In this case, the state of Maryland. It all stems back to immigration and the DOJ view that Maryland federal judges are putting up roadblocks for deportations. Since coming back to office in January, President Trump signed a flurry of executive orders, many of them making their way to courtrooms across the country, but a large amount ended up in Maryland courts. The DOJ, writing in its lawsuit in recent months and years, district courts have used and abused their equitable powers to interfere with the prerogatives of the executive branch to an unprecedented degree.
A Pentagon briefing was held this morning to discuss the U.S. strikes in Iran. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confronted members of the media who had reported that the bombing wasn't as successful as the military reported. He listed numerous sources stating that Iran's nuclear capabilities had been destroyed.
You, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard, it's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump, because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful.
A top former aide to former President Joe Biden testified behind closed doors Tuesday for more than 4 hours as part of the House Oversight Committee's investigation into his mental fitness to serve and his White House's use of an auto pen, confirming she was authorized to use the automatic signature device. Former White House advisor Kellyanne Conway says this person, Neera Tanden, admitted that she didn't know what was being signed by the president, even though it was her job to know.
This is an important story for the American public because the role of staff secretary, which was occupied by Neera Tanden in the Biden White House, that person controls the paper flow in and out of the Oval Office. For Neera Tanden to testify under oath yesterday that she, quote, had very little interaction with the President of the United States, with the Commander-in-Chief, Joe Biden, is just remarkable, and it is derelict of duty. What is the role of staff secretary? Neera Tanden's job is to make sure that everything is vetted, a president has options at his disposal. And to do that, you have to look the president in the eye, make sure they see the options. She's admitting that she wasn't part of the inner circle, that other people were making the decisions, and then the auto pen was all fired up. Under oath, she admitted that she doesn't know who made those decisions.
Good news for a Christian camp in Colorado. Chris Woodward has more.
Camp Idrahaje will not have to adopt the state of Colorado's policy on gender and sexuality. The update comes 1 month after Alliance Defending Freedom filed a federal lawsuit against the state of Colorado on the camp's behalf. ADF called the policy extreme and said it would force the camp to abandon its religious beliefs. ADF attorney Andrea Dill.
Fortunately, the state of Colorado agreed to exempt the camp from these gender ideology policies.
As part of the settlement, the state is also clarifying in a memo on its website and in administrative guides that churches, synagogues, mosques, or any other place that is principally used for religious purposes are exempt from the requirements.
So the case will be dismissed, and now the camp can operate this summer and for years to come and minister to the children that attend its camps and adhere to its beliefs without fear of losing its license or without needing to adopt these gender ideology policies.
The name Idrahaje is a play on the song title, I'd Rather Have Jesus. I'm Chris Woodward.
And a divided Supreme Court allowed states to cut off Medicaid money to Planned Parenthood in a ruling handed down today. It's a Republican-backed push to defund the country's biggest abortion provider. For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. It's a live show, and we do this Monday through Friday. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow we'll have Trivia Friday, also known as Learning University, so we'll be here tomorrow. JJ going to be here? No, he's out of pocket, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it'll be you and me?
And
I'm free.
And Bert. I think Bert.
Oh, Bert's on tomorrow? Bert, I think Bert will have a Andy Griffith question?
He will.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
Who says that?
I don't know. There's some character, doesn't it? It says
on Andy Griffith?
guarantee. Not on Andy Griffith.
No, that's
The guy
Justin,
from Louisiana.
Justin Wilson.
Louisiana. Oh,
Justin
yeah, that's
Wilson,
right.
yeah.
There it is, the guy.
He's the cook / comedian
Yeah.
from yesteryear. I don't even know he's still alive. Justin Wilson. If he is.
Is that the one who said that?
If he isn't, he's 112. But maybe you can do that eating gumbo and gator. I don't know.
It's possible.
He's with Julia Child somewhere.
Oh, I wouldn't want to hear her talk. God love her. She's a great cook, I'm sure. But have you ever tried to listen to that for 30 minutes?
No.
You know what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
yeah, that's why I was
Julia
saying
Child's
that.
voice.
Yes.
Bless her. Bless her. I don't know how we got off on that. But anyway, you're listening to today's issue. Steve Paisley Jordahl joins us.
Good morning, everybody.
So Steve, Ed, Tim, and Ray, and we thank you for listening to AFR. So Steve, what's our first story?
Well, I got you a trivia question for tomorrow.
Okay, go.
What could possibly be the first major city in America to have a socialist / communist mayor?
I'd guess New York City.
Oh,
New York City.
You would be right. So they had a Democrat primary on Tuesday, and the winner was a gentleman, a guy that was his name is I gotta get the M's and the N's right. Zoran Mamdani. Zoran Mamdani is he was born in the Congo,
Sounds like some kind of a storybook. Tani Zandani, born in the Congo, raised with the
by
apes.
wolves.
Well, he
Came to America
He wasn't raised by any economist, so I can
and
tell you
ran
that.
for mayor of New York City. Anyway, so what's the fella's name?
Zoran Mamdani.
I just wanted to hear you say that again.
Zoran Mamdani.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, he is pledging a socialist agenda.
Uh-huh.
There's a couple things I want to bring to your attention about this. So let's just look at his plan for what he'd like to bring to New York. There's a couple of things we're going to get to here, but first, listen to cut 6.
And our police force should not be assisting ICE.
Defund the NYPD and refund all of these different social services.
I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. I'll freeze the rent for millions of tenants, make buses fast and free, and deliver universal childcare. And before you ask, I'll pay for it by taxing the rich. The mayor!
The rich.
By the way, he has not been elected mayor.
No,
yet.
he
was
is
a Democrat primary.
Yes.
The general elections in the fall. Is that right?
It is. And in the general elections, former Governor Mario Cuomo.
He just got beat by this guy.
No, he's running. He could be running as an independent, they say.
And Eric Adams.
Is also
he already announced
yes
months ago that he was going to run as an independent.
Yes.
And he's the current mayor.
Current mayor.
And the thinking is those two might split the moderate Democrat vote. And Mamdani at this point has the odds-on favorite to win this.
He's to the left of AOC, if you're wondering.
Yes. So all of that stuff, tons of stuff that's free. And he says he's going to pay for it by taxing the rich. And also he's going to put he's going to tax businesses. He's putting a business tax so that companies, he says companies are making millions of dollars, and not just in revenue, but in profit. So we're talking about corporations that are making millions of dollars.
Oh,
so,
the bums.
I know. So anyway, it will not work, but the free groceries, the state-controlled grocery stores and everything. Yeah, so.
Zoran's his name?
Zoran
Mamdani.
Mamdani. Nuclear.
Okay.
50 Cent, the rapper. You know, have you heard of the rapper?
I've heard.
50 Cent?
Sure have.
All right. Well, he's not. He's not. He lives in New York City. Not so sure he likes his plan of taxing the rich. He says. He says, where did he come from? Whose friend is this? I'm not feeling the plan. No, I will give him $258,750 on a first-class one-way ticket away from New York. I'm telling Trump what he said, too.
Listen,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and we don't need to forget the Rays on the
Oh,
program.
hey.
This idea of state-run grocery stores, you are going to put out of business not only corporate-owned, large-scale grocery stores, but mom and pop stores are going to go under because you cannot compete with the government. But also, I want to say to our listeners, if you've ever been dissatisfied with the customer service that you receive at a store, wait till the government's running it. All right? It's going to be the DMV when you're trying to find out where the Lucky Charms are.
Does anybody out there think that the government of New York State could run grocery stores somehow better than Kroger, who are all over the country? I doubt this. This is a catastrophe in the making. It's hard to believe. New York has fallen so far from the days of Giuliani, right?
Yes.
And what he did. How do you get from Rudy Giuliani being mayor and very successful to this guy, a left-wing socialist/communist? Tim, how does anybody get to the left of AOC? That's a great question.
Well, let me just tell you how you do it. Now, I haven't followed this race very closely. In fact, that was the first time I've heard that fella talk. So I don't know much about him at all, except I have been reading stories and following the mayoral race in New York. Again, Eric Adams, the current mayor, who is no longer a Democrat, he's going to run as an independent. So Cuomo, former governor, he has his own issues, right?
He's got baggage.
Ran against this guy. This guy's a Zoran. That's his first name.
That's his first name.
Mondani.
Mom Donnie.
Mom, Donnie.
Donnie. Hey,
come on downstairs. Anyway, so Mom and Donnie Osmond.
Yeah.
So he's a state legislator.
Yes.
From the Queens, I think, or
I had to
look and see where he. Anyway, Ray, to answer your question.
He's based in Queens in terms of his 36th district.
Okay.
That he represents.
You know who his congressman is, or his congresswoman is AOC.
There you go.
She was Brooklyn.
She represents parts of Queens and Brooklyn. Yeah.
My favorite thing about Queens is the show.
You like the show?
My favorite part about Queens is that's where Spider-Man's from.
Well, but so is the King of Queens.
That's true.
Huh?
I don't like Queens. I have nothing good to say about Queens.
Anyway, I need to get back. You are trying to distract me. I know what you're doing here. Because
you're the one that brought up King of Queens.
King of Queens. That was a funny show right there. Huh? All right. So to answer your question, Ray, this guy is a quote progressive idealist who wants to promise to fix everything by providing free stuff to all the voters. And how do we make it pay for it? By the people that don't have enough votes to beat me. And that is the quote rich people.
Right.
So
who will shortly be leaving New York City.
That's what I'm going to say. Right. The rich people, whoever they are defined as, are going to figure out a way to leave the city and get out of this. But all that stuff he just promised there, it's not going to work. The city of New York is not the federal government of the United States. The federal government of the United States can pay for stuff that they don't have the money that we don't have the money to pay for by printing more money, okay, and borrowing more money. So when you're a city or a state, you can't do that. You have to have money to pay for your services. So what he's talking about here is having the, quote, rich pay for all that free stuff that he's talking about. I don't think it's a reality, but when you make enough people, you promise enough free stuff to enough people, guess what? For every one, quote, rich person in New York that has a vote, there's 25 probably people who are blue collar or average folks or average income who say, yeah, that's right. Rich can pay for all this stuff.
Right.
And guess what? They got far more votes than, quote, the rich people who are going to be the recipients of the higher taxes. Now, I want to play something else because there's more. Whatever, if the people of New York want to elect this guy, this socialist / communist, then I just say knock yourself out.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Okay, you go for it, New York.
Yeah.
See how that. Then come back to me in about 2 years and see how that works out. Defunding the police in New York City.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you want to do that, you go right ahead. However, there's something more seriously wrong with this fellow's ideology that I wanted to play that clip too.
Okay.
So
like all leftists, he is virulently anti-Semitic. And he's been on. Thinks that there's a genocide going on in Gaza, and so he's been outspoken about that. And he has promised.
Let's just hear it before you give the punchline.
This is a sign of his anti-Semitism. Cut 11.
And Mayor Mamdani, would you welcome Prime Minister Netanyahu to New York City for whatever he comes for, given the U.S. is not a signatory to the ICC, so he can travel to the U.S., unlike a lot of other countries. Would a Mayor Mamdani welcome Benjamin Netanyahu to the city?
No. As mayor, New York City would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a city that our values are in line with international law. It's time that our actions are also.
Even though the U.S. is not a signatory to the ICC?
No, it's time that we actually step up and make clear what we are willing to do to showcase the leadership that is sorely missing in the federal administration.
That's
the
the
ICC
International Criminal Court.
International Criminal Court in The Hague. And they have issued an arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu for alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity, but it is only valid in countries that have signed on to the ICC. The United States is not one of those countries.
So, Ray, the leading candidate for mayor in New York City, and whether he'll win or not remains to be seen. But he said if Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, comes to New York City, he'll have him arrested. I don't think he can do that. I don't think he has the authority to do that. But anyway, that's his viewpoint. What do you think about that?
Well, I do not think Mr. Trump will let that happen. Trump and Netanyahu, they're good buddies. They're shoulder to shoulder in this war.
No, but I'm talking about the idea of it.
Well, I'm saying it's crazy. If New Yorkers need another reason to vote against this guy, don't vote. I mean, suppose you're part of the New York Jewish community, which is huge, okay? I know it's liberal. I know they overwhelmingly Democrat, but how could they support a man who says the leader, the Prime Minister of Israel, we're going to arrest him the minute he sets foot in New York City? It's outrageous. How? Okay, Tim, this is unbelievable to me that in a major American city, a man like this is the likely next mayor.
Yeah. Well, it's going to – so you said that Cuomo may run as an independent?
That's what I'm hearing.
Okay, so you would have two independents, Cuomo and Adams.
A Republican.
Both former Democrats running against this gentleman here.
Yep.
Okay. All right,
now,
well.
Have you found out anything about whether or not New York City could arrest the leader of another country?
Well, according to AI, which is obviously never wrong, a mayor's legal powers are generally limited to local matters. So while the ICC has issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, the authority to execute that warrant falls to states, not local municipalities, and states that are signed on to the ICC Rome Statute, which is where they.
Yeah, I mean, what would you if Mamdani wants to say he's going to that New York City would arrest him? What's the charge?
Well, he would arrest him on war crimes, according to the.
Well, but that's not against the law in New York City.
That's not a state crime.
Well,
get him on jaywalking, maybe.
Well, his statement there is, we are going to enforce the law that the United States
federal government won't do.
I think it's
bluster.
I think it's bluster. But to Tim's point, it is representative of the anti-Semitism of this individual and the hatred of. Well, I mean, he has been critical of Israel and claiming that it commits apartheid on a regular basis and genocide. So,
Next story.
All right. We were talking about AI and what it has to say about Mom Donnie, but a lot of companies are using AI to hire people. In fact, you may be screened if you're applying for a job with a company. You may be screened. The company may never see your name at all if you don't pass the first screening by AI. And then
AI is not a person.
AI, artificial intelligence.
Right.
It's the computer. It's a large language models. It's the wave of the future. It's the most powerful.
It's here now.
It's here now, and it's influencing everything. And one of the things it's influencing is hiring. For some job seekers, the AI's role in the company could even be affecting them during the hiring process. This, according to Daily Wire, selecting some candidates over others without any human intervention. However, a study published by two researchers, Adam Carvonian and Samuel Marks, showed that leading commercial and open source AI language models significantly show significant racial and gender bias. They consistently favor black over white candidates and female over male candidates across all tested models and scenarios.
And that is because these AI programs search the internet.
Yes.
And what they're learning from the internet is that white males especially are the worst possible hire because they're white males. You know, listen, this is a good story because I think as companies try to save money by using AI rather than hiring people to do the job interview process, you're going to have more of this. And however you program your AI in whatever it's doing, it's going to carry out its mission. And there's going to be a lot of this where people aren't going to even get their foot in the door. Congress, states, cities are going to have to pass laws that require, if you're using AI, the only way around this is if you're using AI to screen applicants, you must produce for the applicant the AI-produced reasoning for why you did not move on in the hiring process. And that will then be used for lawsuits. Because if AI says we didn't hire this individual because he was a white male or because he was straight, then you're going to have lawsuits. And I don't know how you avoid this. To me, it's like, and Ray, I'll pitch it to you. It's like when Walmart and other stores started letting their human workers go and then turning to self-checkout. Okay, there are always unintended consequences, and I think you should have human beings doing the interviewing process, not AI programs. That's my rant.
Well, it's true. It's terrifying, frightening. If you think about, you can even just forget the color of your skin question. It's rather terrifying to think that these corporations are going to use AI to determine who gets a job and who they pass over. And I wonder, Ed, how they're ever going to force out the truth of why AI said pick person A, but don't pick person number B, number C, or D, or AI will just make up some kind of made up reason to justify passing one person over another. Look, we are in. I mean, Steve, as you said, AI is not tomorrow. AI is today. It's the world we're living in. And to be honest, frankly, I use AI all the time. My two best friends are Grok and ChatGPT. I mean, I'm talking to Grok.
You need to get out more, Ray.
I know, but they're always there. They're 24 hours a day. They're always happy to hear from me. But this is one of the unintended consequences of AI. And by the way, how it's going to be used to alter reality. Just a side note here, our ministry does a lot of work in China, and we're taking some of my Bible teaching, and we've been doing stuff in Mandarin for a long time, but recently some folks associated with our ministry took my series on the book of Revelation, and they fed my voice into, let's just call it AI generator. That's all I know how to say it. And there's my face down in the corner. There's all these graphics. It was about Armageddon and the end of the world and the second coming. It was very, it was very dramatic, and the music in the background and all that. But the voice was speaking Mandarin. It was my voice altered somehow through AI, so it sounded like Ray Pritchard, but speaking Mandarin, which I know like 2 words of Mandarin. But Ed, this is the other part of it. And I didn't even realize this the first time around. They altered my mouth so that if you looked at my mouth, I was not speaking English words. I was not only, quote, speaking Mandarin, a language I do not know, but they altered my face so that it looked like I was speaking Mandarin. It was so good, I didn't even realize that till somebody told me. I went back and said, whoa. And those are good guys. Those are people who are on our ministry team. This is just the tip of the iceberg of where we're going with artificial intelligence. I don't know if that's a rant or not, but it's fascinating.
I need to jump in here because, Ed, you said something about holding people accountable like this. In the big, beautiful bill, there is a provision that states cannot pass any regulation on AI for 10 full years.
Yeah, this is a moral and ethical mess that we are just, for most people, just what Ray just said. I've had my voice cloned before. It can be very helpful, okay? But what Ray just said, there are people listening. They're going, wait, what? They can do that? Most people are just now hearing about this, but we're already waist deep in it. Like you said, we are not prepared to deal with the unintended consequences or the moral and ethical fallout from AI seeping into every nook and cranny of human existence.
Some of it good. We had the story about Elon Musk, who's going to be using AI to implant directly to the visual cortex and basically cure blindness.
Yeah.
But there's a lot bad to go along with it.
What you were describing there, Ray, which was all good and positive, that can be flipped.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's scary to think about. Your voice being cloned. What if?
And your facial. It looks like.
Right.
I mean, what's going to happen when the world sees a video of Tim Wildman or Ed Vitagliano saying racist stuff?
They're already using it to use phone. They get your voice. They call your parent. You're a parent, and in their child's voice, "I'm kidnapped. I need help. Send money."
Yeah.
It's
I
already
tell
happening.
you, if AI, I could be swayed. If AI will help Mississippi State win an SEC championship in football, I think I can be persuaded to go over to that side. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.